Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 17th day here of July, right in smack dab in the middle of summer here. Not as hot here in the Nashville, Tennessee area, but I'll tell you, it was still pretty hot out here. Got a great show with you for tonight. Going to go over episode 3, New York Giants. Heck of an education of free agency. We're now in free agency, going back to their season. Nick Saban does not pick Alabama to make it to the SEC championship game. I'll go over Texas, Georgia. Looks like it's going to be those two. Talk a little bit about that as we are in SEC media days all week this week. Also, Jaylen Brown, that story, I know that's about a week and a half old story. But I keep thinking with the possibility of another guy like a Kevin Durant possibly may drop out of the Olympics this year, that maybe Jaylen Brown could get in. He makes a point. It's really not sour grapes if you look into it, that Nike held Jaylen Brown. Another reason not to like Nike, right? Nike supposedly, in his words, and if we're not going to go over and give to you, I believe they withheld him. They used their weight to withhold him from getting into the Olympic team. Plus, I got some other news and notes I might want to touch on and talk about. But first, let's take our first and only break. And I'll be back here after a few quick announcements, and we'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. Thanks.
Okay, I'm trying to get this pop-up to go off my screen, folks. And now, really, this thing is really on here now. Go figure. Let's get this thing off here now. All righty then. Man, that's driving me crazy. Okay. Now, the Giants, this Hard Knocks thing gives us a good education of about what happens behind the scenes when teams are trying to make their moves to build up for the upcoming season here. And I will say this, everything I read here and hear by watching this, a lot of people said this is way too much information. I think, like Carlos said last week, I was listening back to our program, which I'm trying to get Carlos on again Thursday, get him on Thursday. I'm going on here during the summer, going on about a 3-day-a-week show because of my schedule and whatnot. Plus, I'm, having editing days and I'm working some extra hours to get everything squared away. Don't really want that to be the case, folks, during the NFL season. Don't want it to be the case now, but this is all part of the sacrifice to get this program at a higher plane than what it currently is, if you know what I mean, folks. So just kind of bear with me here. But anyways, so, John Mara is another lets another hint. Okay, he's the owner of the New York Giants, that he's not really satisfied with the direction of this team and what Joe Sheehan is doing. Also, I've noticed that him and Brian Daboll, the general manager, they're not really on the same page. Even though I know that he brought in Daboll and whatnot, that's his guy. I'll just play some sound bites here, explain everything in particular context. But I'll say this. It seems like Sheehan, the general manager, we talked about this when this thing first come out last week or whatever, or a couple of weeks ago, where in episode 3 comes on once a week, that the Giants' main offseason goal, like a lot of teams, particularly like the Titans and whatnot, was to fix their offensive line. 29th in the league, almost at the very bottom of the league there. Only bright spot they have is Andrew Thomas, the left tackle. But everything else you've had, she had made the comment, they've had 3 practice squad guys on at one time. And you're going against defensive lines like what Washington has, I've had over the past few years, in Philadelphia. And of course, Dallas. Well, Michael Parsons, one of the best pass rushers in the game, folks. And just a great overall defensive line there with the Philadelphia Eagles. So that was Sheehan's really, but he's a passive guy. He's a little too passive for my liking. He's a little too friendly for my liking with the players here. But what he really wanted, they leaned into John Runyon, who they eventually signed for $30 million. That was a former guard there that played with the Packers. That's the son of Big John Runyon. Very good pedigree. And this Jermaine Ellimore, they did sign, but they really also wanted Robert Hunt, who was a free agent from the Miami Dolphins, who later signed 5 years, $100 million contract. That's a big deal for a guard. I mean, that's unbelievable money for a guard. But if you are at the bottom of a barrel, at that position, if you have a bad offensive line, you can't win whatsoever. It's one thing. In other words, if you said pick a bad unit, but you can't have both good units. Just pick one unit that you had to be bad. One has to be bad. I'd rather have a bad defensive line than a bad offensive line. It's 29th, 30th, 31st in the league, because then you're getting your quarterback killed. You can't even run the ball if it's really bad, like Tennessee was a couple years ago at the end when they had their injuries, with Derrick Henry getting hit in the backfield. This guy's running people over left and right, but he's getting run over in the backfield. But when he was with the Titans, people blaming him. I'm like, he can't even get ahead of steam, But I'll come back to this. Here's some sound bites here. So Sheehan's really moved on. You can tell by watching it, but he's got to satisfy Mr. Mara, the owner there. And you could tell Mara still's hanging on to, at this point, we're in free agency. We're going back to March Pickles. We're in free agency, and he still want to get this Saquon Barkley thing done here. And the numbers were really, really close. So let's go back here and listen to that soundbite there of Barkley. That wasn't really good at all.
Something done there.
Okay, let me make sure we got this squared away here. Make sure I put it down correctly here. I think this one's it. Listen up.
Something done there. In the running back, I think.
What's the latest? It's not the Saquon thing. But just got a text that Chicago.
See, he's wanting to get the line squared away, and this is Sheehan. This guy saying, "What's the latest?" That's John Mara, the owner there. He really wants to get Barkley back But listen to what he says, Pickles, at the end.
Chicago's driving the price up and Philly's out. I don't know if that's true or not. Which I don't know. I'll make a couple calls. I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I told you.
I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'm going to tell you that.
Just being honest. I haven't been around enough players. I mean, so, but he's the most popular player we have by far. Yeah.
Did you catch that, Pickles? Let's play that again.
It's that Chicago's driving the price up and Philly's out. I don't know if that's true or not. Which I don't know. I'll make a couple calls. I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I told you, just being honest. I haven't been around enough players. I mean, so, but he's the most popular player we have by far. Yeah.
Owners thinking about jersey sales. Most popular player we have by far. Win games. Win games. You know, and so they're and you know, I'm looking at this, and let's just play one more soundbite of what they're trying to do. They're also talking about this Brian Burns trade. At one point, Brian Burns is the pass rusher from the Carolina Panthers. Now, mind you, they've got Kayvon Thibodeau. Very high draft pick, inconsistent player. Jack Hirsch has been on this program. I've been on their program, the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show, over the last couple of years. And Thibodeau's not a consistent player. He's a talented player. That's the other pass rusher. Dexter Lawrence, they've already gave the bag to him. That's the defensive tackle last year. You can make an argument that they don't need another pass rusher with that bad of offensive line. They gave – we all know what happened. They gave Burns a lot of money. So let's play some more sound bites here and kind of give you an indication of where things are going. Here is Sheehan on the phone again here.
Good day for you. Good day to be Ed Barry. What's Renee gonna get?
This is more on Barkley because the owner just stepped in and said, "Well, you know, we got to see what the deal is." Listen up.
Perfect. What you said? 12.5 APY, 25 guaranteed. North of that? Okay, we're not gonna go there. We're out.
Keyword, 25 guaranteed for Barkley. Mind you, Barkley don't have to. I mean, it's tough leaving. Keep that number in mind, folks. 25 for Barkley guaranteed.
Is it in the division?
Give a little context. That is talking to Saquon Barkley's agent here.
I'm trying to prepare myself mentally for what's going to happen. That's all. Okay. All right.
So that is the call from Barkley's agent. That's the call from Barkley's agent. And I want to say this is ends up what's happening. This is what they see on NFL Network.
Yeah, only wrong. What wrong?
Saquon, 3 years, 37.75. We worked up for 46.7.
So he got north of that.
26 guaranteed.
26 guaranteed. Let's play this over again. This is more from the Barkley. This is after free agency done started. He's back. This is Sheehan going back and forth with Barkley's agent. This is his assistant giving him what Barkley just did.
Yeah, only wrong. What wrong?
Saquon, 3 years, 37.75. We worked up to 46.7.
So he got north of that.
26 guaranteed. But
Over 13
now
years.
against the franchise tag number, it has a maximum average per year salary of 15.8.
All right.
We're gonna be fine.
I think we're looking to.
3 years, 37, 26 pickles guaranteed. 26, $1 more million guaranteed to move to Philadelphia. Now, some of that other stuff may have been easy incentives, not to get too in the weeds on the Saquon Barkley stuff, but they're sitting there sweating it. And that the owner wants to sell jerseys, Pickles. He wants to sell. Pickles says it's a massive profit. And I'm giving you some context for you not watching the show. For those of you not watching, Mr. Maris got his Starbucks. He's walking in the office. The office door's open with 3 other assistants there with Joe Sheehan. He's walking out of the office. He's walking back in the office. He's thinking more about jersey sales. That's what I'm saying about a lot of these owners. We just talked about last week or maybe a week or two before on Justin Jefferson, massive contract, $35 million at the top end there per year for a wide receiver. That's mainly jersey sales, brand building, TV stuff. That's not really about winning football games, but he's really sweating that Saquon Barkley thing. You know, he's sweating bullets over that. And, you know, they still got Singletary, who played with Houston last year, but Singletary was originally drafted by Buffalo, where Sheehan comes from. I wasn't in love with Singletary. I mean, I like Singletary, but I'm not in love with Singletary. My suggestion, with them talking about what they really wanted, they meaning Joe Sheehan, who is kind of he's a little too mild. I've talked about that before, for my liking. For one thing, if you know you're going to lose Barkley, yes, you can get that conditional thick. It's probably like a third round this year, not next year. Why not trade him? Why not trade him and get something in the 2024 draft? Trade him. If you don't want him playing for the Eagles, trade him to the Bears. The Bears were supposedly a player. The Bears end up getting DeAndre Swift from the Eagles, okay? And then musical running backs, right? And so they end up getting the Eagles end up getting Barkley, and of course Singletary, former Texans player, they end up getting Singletary. But then there's all this talk about, but he wanted Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt's a guard there from Miami. But it's like what you want as the general manager, but you feel like he's being, and I know it's supposed to be a collective, but at the end of the day, I'm the general manager. I'm supposed to make that call. And of course, I got to get the owner to sign off on it. I got to get him to sign off on it. But if he gets fired, it's because of this, because the fans are going to be saying shows like mine, Mr. Mayor is going to be hearing them, and they might not be that good next year. Now, they did upgrade their line, but I would rather take a chance on that guard at $100 million and not give up the second round pick that they gave up for Burns, and being able to dominate that offensive line, going from a very bad offensive line to adding a Runyon, adding this Jameer Ellamore guy from the Raiders, and of course adding Robert Hunt from the Miami Dolphins there. Now you have a very stiff offensive line here. But listen to Joe Sheehan talk to the defensive coordinator here, Shane Bowen, about Brian Burns. And then Brian Duvall, the head coach, is in the room too. He's asking Bowen about Burns, talking about his sack total and all that stuff. So it's 4:00, and they're trying to get this 4:00 Eastern time. This is some kind of deadline that they've set, and they're trying. He's on the phone with Dan Morgan, what I'm about to play here, trying to get this deal done with Brian Burns beforehand. But listen up. Here, this is a longer soundbite of the questioning about Brian Burns with the defensive coordinator, then the closing of the deal. Listen up.
Yeah.
You said
Close.
you said the Giants.
All right, here's Demo. See what happens.
Demo, Dan Morgan, general manager for Carolina Panthers.
Daniel Thomas Morgan. What's up, buddy? Oh my God. What do we do? What are we doing, Dan? Why do we need to add on a seventh, Dan? Like, come on. You and I are going to be doing this a long time, hopefully. And, like, we got to have allies. I don't want to throw in a seventh. Like, I need players too, Dan. Like, I mean, we're picking 6. You guys would be picking 1. Like, let's just do what we said on the last one. And that works out. We met you in the middle with some of your demands. Carolina gets 39, 140 in 2025-5. The highest one, we get Burns in 165. We good? All right, I'm texting this to you right now. Good doing business with you, buddy. We'll get whatever we need over to you. If you can send me his number at some point, that way I can reach out to him. All right, bye.
Okay, so that's the numbers there. That's the numbers there, and I did not play this one. I got ahead of myself. That's the closing of the deal, but this was what was played. I went out of sequence there. This is, by the way, Brian Burns' nickname, Spider-Man. Got them long arms and get through people. But here is the Brian Daboll asking the coordinator about this guy.
There goes the Spider-Man.
How productive is he in terms of sacks? Good has he been?
You have 46 sacks over 5 years, which is more than the guys in his draft class. Josh Allen, Rashawn Gary, Montez Sweat, all guys that have been paid. Yeah, he's got more sacks than all those guys.
All right, why don't we'll take one shot at Burns, and if it gets out of hand, then in the draft we'll have to find Rush.
Okay, after that's a pretty impressive resume. He says he's got more. Josh Allen is a house of fire for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Montez Sweat was traded to the Bears, who just re-signed with the Bears. That was former Washington Commander player. And the last player there was who was it? He said.
All right, why don't we'll take one shot at Burns.
Rashawn Gary was got a second contract with the Green Bay Packers. He was their edge rusher here. So more sacks than those guys, and they've already signed pretty good size contracts here in the 5 years, 46 sacks. And that sounds like a slam dunk if you just listen. Okay, well, he's all that. And you could put him beside Dexter Lawrence, being in the middle, and then the other side, Kayvon Thibodeau, who's Mr. Inconsistent. Okay. That being said, even after that answer, Brian Daboll, that's from the defensive coordinator. Brian Daboll walks out and doesn't shut the door behind him. He wanted that line to get that line squared away. So if it was me personally, just playing a little armchair personally, I wouldn't have traded for Burns, even though he has those kind of numbers. I would have signed Hunt. They had 2 second-round picks, folks. One of them, that 39th, went to Carolina, and somehow Carolina parlayed it up and get the 33rd pick. Okay, I would have went after T'Vondre Sweat, who Tennessee later took at 7 in the second round, the defensive tackle, to put him besides Lawrence. And with one of those picks, with the other one, there's a guy named Jonathan Brooks, a running back that the Carolina they ended up going in the second round too. So they didn't have to sign Singletary and pay that money to him. They didn't have to give up that pick and pay that boatload of money. Now, Burns has 15, 16 sacks, and they're all world. Okay, maybe it's worth it. Maybe I'm wrong. But if your glaring weakness is really on that offensive line, why not protect it and have that good running game? Have those really good guards there beside the center. You've already got the left tackle there. Why not spend the money? Philadelphia's down the road from you. They're spending money, buku's money on the offensive line, and they're kicking butt and taking names. They're in the Super Bowl. They're winning divisions. They're getting playoff wild card wins. Meanwhile, you, the Giants, you're getting smoked by Philadelphia and Dallas. You're not controlling the line of scrimmage. You've got a quarterback that's tripping over his own feet all the time. By the way, and they also lost Tyrod Taylor to their crosstown to the team that plays in the not crosstown. I want to see every time I think about New York, I say crosstown rivalries. The truth of the matter is he's playing in the same stadium with the Jets. So they end up signing Drew Lock from the Seattle Seahawks. So as I mentioned last week with the Mad New Yorker, I could see Mr. Mary cleaning house again and firing both Sheehan and the Ball if this thing don't work out. You got Drew Lock, who is just – he had a decent season last year, I guess, as a backup with Seattle, but you never know what you're going to get out of Drew Lock, and it's usually not good. Backing up Daniel Jones, who's coming back from a knee injury. So, I mean, it just feels like they're doomed either way. It's good to have that kind of defensive line. I get it. They end up taking a safety with their other second-round pick because they lost the safety. I just feel like their priorities are in the wrong place. If you ask me, I wouldn't have been sweating Barkley like that. But it is what it is. Pickle says sports agents are always target a division rivalry. Yes, they are. They are always doing that. Hey, if he's kicking our butt, if we can't beat him, join him. I mentioned that with Bill Belichick talking about this short guy but he's quick as a cat and he kicks their butt all the time. That guy's name was Wes Welker, and in 2007 signed with the Patriots. And man, that dude caught everything in sight for the Patriots for many years to come there, including that great year with Randy Moss there. Okay, so anywho, interesting stuff. Great show. Love it. People say it gives too much information, yada, yada, yada. I'm not one of those people. I think it's 10 times better looking at the front office and the stuff behind the scenes. You kind of know what they're thinking rather than the stuff following some mediocre player and not getting that much access. Now, that being said about Hard Knocks, the regular Hard Knocks is coming up here. This is like a preseason. Then they're going to have the Chicago Bears one. And then they're going to have a mid-season one, which starts around November. They're going to have a mid-season Hard Knocks that starts around November with the whole AFC North, Pickles. The whole AFC North. Yes, Wes Welker ran wild in Miami. He was really quick. And worth that contract with the Patriots, if you think about it. So anyways, it's been SEC Media Days all week long. Nick Saban, like myself, like I've been talking about, haven't broke down the schedule completely, although I do have a copy of their schedules of Texas and Georgia. Nick Saban, now an analyst with ESPN, he thinks that it's going to be Texas and Georgia in the college, in the SEC championship game. I thought that was interesting. So he's saying that the players he left, Keelan DeBoer, are not good enough. We know that defense for Alabama was suspect last year. The year before that, Tennessee put 51 on them. They got a new coordinator, much better, improved team, but not quite as tight as an Alabama defenses have been under Nick Saban's championship teams. So he didn't pick them. He says that it's going to be Texas and Georgia. Now, mind you, Texas did beat Alabama last year in Alabama. Texas was in the playoff. Very close game. If you all do not recall, the Washington playoff game came down. It shouldn't have, to like a play in the end zone. To a guy, I thought Washington had it and they were selling. Got a little too complacent, played a little prevent there, and almost prevented them to not get in the national championship game. I know they've lost quite a few players. Devontae Sweat, Jonathan Brooks, running back. Xavier Worthy, speedster there. Now he's a Kansas City Chief, broke the combine record. But they're still loaded with talent there. Mind you that Quinn Ewers, 5-star guy, came in as a freshman, huge multi-million-dollar NIL deal, came in with the mullet, wasn't consistent. The team went out and recruited and signed Arch Manning, the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning, and he has held Arch Manning off his freshman year, and he supposedly, from everything I'm reading, going to hold off Arch Manning his sophomore year. Arch is not he is not in the transfer portal. He's going to stay there and fight it out. Ewers did beat Alabama, but he lost to Oklahoma last year, and he's gotten better. He's just not as consistent as he should be. And if anybody's on Facebook, by the way, and I hate to repeat myself, but if you want to talk to me, make sure and go on the YouTube, the Real Sports Scope YouTube channel, and I can speak to you that way. I've got to get my Facebook set up through my page instead of my personal profile, and I apologize. I got sidetracked again today. I had some work had to be done in my kitchen. I had to get my garbage disposal fixed. Talking to the maintenance guy kind of set me back a little bit today. But all that being said, getting back to the subject at hand, Texas is a very good team. They're in my top 3 according to preseason rankings. Now, by the way, we haven't got the coaches poll out yet. We haven't got the AP, but there's a good chance. There's a very good chance that Texas is going to be number 3, according to some of the articles I've looked up. This is USA Today. And Georgia's going to be the number 1 team in the country again. And I just talked about them yesterday. Georgia, ton of experience on both sides of the ball, including Carson Beck, a quarterback, faces a tough schedule with road games at Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss. And by the way, Georgia, what an opener, folks. They play. This is as of today. College football is very likely to change this. But as of today, July the 17th, they will open up against Clemson at 12 Eastern, 11 a.m. I would love to see a game like that in the morning, that Saturday morning, August the 31st, which is Labor Day weekend, a little earlier this year. It's usually in September. It's going to be August 31st. They play Clemson here with this Carson Beck being their starting quarterback. Now, Steve Sarkisian, great recruiter, getting a lot of players in there. Junior quarter. Let's see. What did they say here? On defense, no, that's Georgia, of course, and they look great. They've got about, I think I want to say they got about 8 starters coming back here. Here we go. This is the Longhorns have had several projected starters, 2024. Quinn Ewers, I talked about that, his 3rd season. CJ Baxton, sophomore running back. Isaiah Bond. Remember him last year? Bond, big catch after big catch. He'll be back here. He's going to be the go-to guy. Matthew Golden Jr. They throw the ball all over the place. Offensive tackle Kevin Banks Jr. going to be back here. Edge rusher Byron Sorrell. These are all NFL prospects, by the way. David Gannett at linebacker, and, of course, defensive back. It says the Longhorns have had 4 offensive line, 2 running backs. They've also added 3 receivers through the portal. They're going to be loaded as they have been. Stark is really in tune with Quinn Ewers. But that being said, these two will play each other in the regular season, folks. They will play each other in the regular season, but Carson Beck for Georgia, who hasn't lost a regular season game since 2020, that's unbelievable. He's, according to 2 mock drafts, I've heard Mel Kiper bring this up a couple months ago, looking ahead to the 2025 draft. This is not in stone. We know how things can change, but Carson Beck is the Georgia quarterback, folks, is supposed to be the first quarterback off the board in the 2025 draft. So he's supposed to be drafted ahead of Quinn Ewers. Well, I didn't even see. And Schroeder Sanders, Deion's son, is supposed to be in the top 10. One mock had him going 7 to the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are definitely going to go quarterback, not unless Connell really takes off. I doubt he does. That being said, this guy is likely to be a top 3 to number 1 overall pick. Carson Beck from Georgia. He measures out like that according to multiple, including the NFL, Pro Football Network, not NFL Network, but I'm sure they would too. Talent, anticipation, poise, layer ability. If Schroeder goes out and has a Heisman type of season, and with Colorado, with his ability to run, he could possibly jump everybody and go number 1 overall. I do think Deion's son's that good. Now, as far as Quinn Ewers, listen, Texas has got a rough schedule too. You know, you got the 12-team playoff here. Texas, very rough schedule here. They open up against, they got to play at Michigan, which Michigan's not going to be that bad, but they also got to play the Oklahoma game, Red River rivalry game. That's a big rival game, right? On October 12th. Then the very next week, at home, mind you, you talk about standing room only, Pickles. You talk about standing. This would be a great game for me to be doing Sports Scope, the real Sports Scope outside of, if I had great seats and not bleacher seats. In Austin, folks, October 19th, Georgia at Texas. Georgia at Texas. You talk about a lot, and it said TBA, that's 7 p.m. prime time, massive stadium. Game day is going to be there. Probably going to be the number 1 and number 3 team in the country. That's going to be a big, big game. I would lean Georgia. There to play Texas because they got that Oklahoma game just before that. And then, of course, Texas got to play Vanderbilt afterwards. But Texas also plays Florida after Vanderbilt. That's not an easy game. And then they play Arkansas, Texas. That's another rival game. I did not know that, but that's considered a rival game. Then they end the season against Kentucky. So it does look like that they do have an easier schedule. Wait a minute. Hold it. The way Fred Flintstone was saying. I stand corrected. It looks like Texas can cruise. Then I start seeing Texas. November 16th, they play at Arkansas. The 23rd, they play Kentucky. That's kind of a sandwich game. Then they play A&M with all their talent. And A&M's got the former Duke coach, which, remember, Duke beat Clemson last year. And Texas A&M still got all that talent, and I don't think everybody left in transfer portal. So they got to play big rival games this year. Texas, A&M, that's an old school rivalry. Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry game. And they got to play Georgia. Okay. I mentioned Florida as Florida's a nobody. But the truth of the matter is, Florida's kind of the game that gets slipped in there. You know, Kentucky's beat Florida before. Kentucky's a good team, but playing A&M, playing Georgia, playing Oklahoma, normally, and they do play Michigan. I think that Michigan's stripped down. They're a shell of themselves. They play teams like Colorado State, Louisiana Monroe, UTSA. You know, that's nothing. That's nothing, Chad. But I just think that they got a really difficult schedule. I still think they'll probably find a way to make it because of their depth and Steve Sarkisian. But I think Georgia will probably beat them in the regular season too. I thought I had Georgia's schedule here. Georgia plays Clemson. They play Texas Tech. That ain't nothing. They do play at Alabama, but Alabama's defense is suspect this year, you know. And then Mississippi State. Then they play Texas. Then they get 2 weeks off. Georgia kind of getting a lucky rope. They play the what used to be called the world's largest cocktail party. Now they don't even use that term. They play Florida there. But it ends. It's a pretty rough ending there. Playing at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's got Ole Miss playing really well right now. The last couple of years, they're playing well. And then they have to play Tennessee at home. They should beat Tennessee and Georgia. And then they end it with UMass and Georgia Tech. Yeah, they're going to go. Auburn's in there too. They'll lose to either Alabama or Auburn. They're not going to win both of those games. And they may just lose one game. I think they'll beat Clemson, too, to start the season, August 31st, that Saturday Labor Day weekend, which I love games like that, you know. They'll play in Alabama and Auburn back-to-back. Auburn probably get them. Auburn, I could see Auburn knocking them out. Auburn played them well last year. Remember, Auburn's football coach, really good, played them well early in that game last year. Auburn should have beat Alabama. Remember, Hugh Freeze, former Ole Miss coach, had Auburn playing well last year. So I do think that it's probably Texas, Georgia. It's always played in Atlanta. That'll be a good one. Texas maybe 2 losses. Georgia probably 1. Okay. Now I haven't studied LSU. I have not studied, but LSU's defense is not bad. Alabama's defense has some holes in it for their standards. LSU defense has gaping holes in it. And that's really un-LSU-like. Could there be a surprise in the SEC? Yes. It's not going to be Georgia. It's probably not going to be Tennessee, although Tennessee's quarterback is going to be interesting to see how they play this Nico guy, who's really talented. It could be in Auburn. It could be an A&M. It could be an LSU. Those are the 3 that I think. It's not going to be Florida's. Florida's going to get Deion Sanders next year. That's my prediction. They're going to fire. They're going to fire their head coach there. They're going to fire their head coach and get it. So I'm with Nick Saban. I do think it's going to be Georgia, Texas, and I think Georgia with the better quarterback, according to NFL scouts, Carson Beck, first quarterback off the board. Georgia's going to take it there. Now, whether or not, like we were talking about yesterday, with Kirby Smart getting above Nick Saban now, it's a lot harder because I think Ohio State's going to be really good this year. Maybe Texas plays them again. Okay. What's their road going to be? What if they draw like an Auburn again? What if they draw an LSU again? So you've got to win, like I was talking about yesterday's program, you got to win that extra game. It's 4 games. Not unless Georgia finishes really well. But they could slip up against Tennessee. They could slip up against Texas. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. It's not a walk in the park for any of these teams in the SEC. There's no, starting this year, there's no SEC East and SEC West. It's just the 2 best teams. The 2 best teams with the best conference winning, conference records. Then it goes into tiebreakers and all that nonsense. Strength of schedule. Now, could Clemson knock them out? Yes. Dabo is going to have Clemson ready. They've got a decent quarterback there at Clemson. Young guy, going to be poised. He's going to be a junior. That could come down to one play. It's came down close before. Last time they played 2 years ago, So, yeah. Now, Texas, maybe LSU wins in a tiebreaker there. Maybe College Station they do. But Texas, I don't know. I think Texas is a loaded team. They're not going to be intimidated. And the teams that they played last year, folks, the coaching got way better in the Big 12 last year, if you recall. TCU coaching better. Kansas coaching better. Texas Tech coaching upgrade. Kansas, yes, I said it. Kansas coaching upgrade. But this is a different animal. Now they've got to play Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, Michigan, even though Michigan's banged up like nobody's business. Totally stripped down. No Jim Harbaugh. Don't see nothing happening in Michigan. New quarterback, Michigan. Don't see it. Now, of course, I haven't even looked at Ohio State, but I've read that Urban Meyer said this may be their most talented team ever with their transfer guys. We'll see about that. Talk's cheap, Pickles. But anyways, it's a lot to look forward to. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about this later on and give a playoff breakdown. I have not got my Phil Steele magazine. That was just a comment Nick Saban said. Just wanted to talk about that because that's probably about right. Schedules aside, that's probably about right. Listen, Kentucky's beating people, folks. Ole Miss is beating people. All right. Mississippi State's got a different coach. Not too concerned about them or Vanderbilt, but Tennessee's beating people. South Carolina's beating people. It's just that much harder in the SEC. I'm curious to see how this thing plays out here. It's not that many easy outs, maybe 2 or 3. And what do you got? 14 teams. LSU. I don't think Brian Kelly moved off his defense. They need a defensive coordinator. But LSU at night is always a tough place to play, even if they can't get stops. And Brian Kelly's going to have another good quarterback. He always does. Let me talk about this old story here since we're getting towards the end of the program. Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics wins the Finals MVP, playing the best basketball of his career. Okay. I know this is a week-old story. I kept thinking that maybe Durant's going to drop out of the Olympics. They're going to end up putting Jaylen Brown into the Olympic team, and it still has not happened. Okay. It still has not happened. So Kawhi Leonard, being Kawhi Leonard, hurt as usual, dropped out a week ago, folks. And instead of putting Jaylen Brown in there, Finals MVP, they put Derek White, Jaylen Brown's teammate, in. And Jaylen Brown is saying this is all about Nike because he's not a Nike guy. Brown is not a Nike-sponsored athlete. This is an article I read here. And while White is, though, Brown as a sneaker free agent wears various Nike shoes with swoosh logo removed. Brown has been criticizing Nike for several years, dating an X post back 2 years ago in November 22 saying, since Nike did care about ethics, that post was in response to Nike co-founder Phil Knight said Kyrie Irving stepped over the line when Irving shared a link to an anti-Semitic field. That was going back talking about the Amazon story, playing politics. Gary Washburn wrote, Does Team USA want Brown, who's made controversial political statements in the past about the world stages, expressing his opinion? Do politics have anything to do with Hill's decision? They do. Team USA historically has been an organization that plays favorites or shows allegiance. And I was researching this story. About Nike. Damian Lillard has said is not a Nike guy. He says they put people in the back that they absolutely want to put on the team, but they do not want to show their shoes because they don't have the Nikes on there. Going all the way back to 92, Sneaker Wars here. Michael Jordan covered up the Reebok logo in his warm-up because he's a Nike guy. Nike, and the reason why Jaylen Brown said that and defending a Kyrie Irving is because we think about the Nike in the in those camps there, holding people against their will there in Wuhan, China. Yes, they took their plants out of Wuhan, but they did not totally disassociate with China. Nike didn't. Okay. And they did not disassociate with China, not to mention the Colin Kaepernick stuff. You say, well, that's civil rights. Well, Nike jumped on the hype of the kneeling back in 2017 with Colin Kaepernick because they just wanted to push that hype. Okay. Forget about the division and painting all the broad brushes about the police department and all that. They're okay. This goes back to Tiger Woods. Nike wanted Tiger Woods to go on this big racial campaign and commercials and all that stuff, talking about race and everything. And Tiger Woods was not on board with that. He says, listen, I'm Taiwanese and I'm black. So I'm not going to play this whole racial card thing and get everybody amped up and divide people over that. I'm not going to go for that. But this was in the Tiger Woods documentary where he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So are they really into civil rights and whatnot? Or are they simply into getting in the news cycle and being talked about, whether it's ethical or not, whether it's undivisive or not, as long as you've got Nike or something controversial, some type of even if it's a division, long as it's hype, no news is bad. What is it? No news, bad news is good news. As long as they're talking about us, bad press is good press. As long as we're getting press, they're taking that. No, Tiger Woods did not want to divide people and go with this racial narrative, this divisive racial narrative that Nike was trying to push in the 90s. He did not want to do that. Nike's all about Nike. Nike's selfish. Nike's not about civil rights. Nike don't care about people working at concentration camps. Nike ain't worried about people taking cops getting crap beat out of them. Nike wants to sell shoes. That's Nike. Nike blocked Jaylen Brown from getting into the Olympics. That's Nike. And since that crap happened in 2017, like I said on this program, I took my only Nike shirt and gave it away to Goodwill. I had a University of Tennessee Nike shirt. And I'm glad Jaylen Brown said what he said. The heck with Nike. I won't buy Nikes no more. I wouldn't advise anybody to buy Nike. Nike is a globalist company that would sell out anybody. They're just a bunch. They are an opportunist type of company. I like the Air movie. Phil Knight's not even a part of them anymore. He's like 80 something years old now. I didn't know he was 86 years old. But I just didn't appreciate it. I didn't know how young Jaylen Brown is. I don't think he's ever got a gold medal. I think that the Olympic Committee should not like Nike, who's just running sports. I mean, just constantly with their nonsense getting involved in that. Somebody else should have something to do with it, not let Nike run everything, you know, with the AAU culture and all that crap. That's why basketball is not where it should be. It's not as pure as it should be because companies like Nike, you know, shoe agents and all that. That's why you got a lot of selfish players there. It's not a lot of team unity. They're calling the shots on who to do what. Yeah. So, but, you know, Kawhi Leonard in his situation, and quite frankly, I know they didn't want Kawhi Leonard on it. He's got one of these other off brands. A New Balance, I think. So, but yeah, they are definitely a POS. Hopefully something will work out. Maybe somebody else will drop out and it'll be a moot point because Nike's being shamed now for making it about petty nonsense. You know, I didn't realize how corrupt the Olympics are. They're so strict about drug testing and all that, but they let these companies like Nike dictate. Of course, the America's going to win anyways. They're playing really well. Don't get me wrong; they're dominating. Even though the globe has caught up with them, they're probably still winning anyways. But I just hate to see him do Brown like that. The guy ain't got a chance to get a go. But if you're a Boston Celtics fan, you know, things are flying high for the Celtics. They just won the championship. Don't you want Jaylen Brown to have his have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and have that edge and maybe try to go out and get maybe an MVP type of season, go out and ball out, be an all NBA player again next year, kind of give him a little bit of an edge here. I mean, the guy was the finals MVP. Boston gave him a huge contract last year, lived up to the contract there. That's a little motivation. If your Celtics coaching staff, I would use it to definitely motivate Jaylen Brown. Yeah, Pickle says they're owned by corporate America. Well, yeah. Well, corporate America, that's Nike for you. So your globalist corporations. All right, folks. Tomorrow, I'm hoping to have the Mad New Yorker on. I'm going to ask him a few questions here about this Georgia thing here. This thing with Georgia and Alabama, this is Nick Saban. And also, can Kirby Smart catch Nick Saban? 47 years old, 2 national championships. You guys know my opinion. I don't think he will. I don't think he will catch Nick Saban at 7. But that's something we'll discuss tomorrow. Get a few more things from the Mad New Yorker and everything. So have a good night, everybody. I can't believe we're already just about out of time. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place here on the Real Sports Scope. By the way, folks, if you like the show, please share the show. We got to get this thing built up, everybody, okay? Have a good night. Thanks.